What's going on, everybody? It's your boy TJ, and welcome to part 2 of the story of my breakup. And if you haven't heard part 1, I encourage you to check out part 1. While I left off, I talked a little bit about, me and my ex breaking up the first time, and how, I moved from Texas to be closer to my family and stuff like that after we broke up, because I felt as if I didn't have anything to be in Texas for. So, I ended up going back with my family, and I ended up in a process of, breaking up and going around the way, doing my thing. I met somebody, that was a very, very wonderful person. And, like I said, me and the girl, we hit it off. I mean, she was mad cool and she was mad supportive of me. And, in the process, we really started to care about each other. And, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, I still had feelings for my ex, man. And it caused a lot of, problems and issues, between me and the girl, because, I had, in the back of my mind, like, I was chilling and everything was cool, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking, like, who is she doing this with? Like, who is she talking to? So I could never get it together, but, I was trying. But anyway, I say about a month passed. And I remember, like, getting a text message, right after, I started to talk, kind of get serious with this other woman. And, I was posting pictures on Facebook, and I was telling about, how she made me feel and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, I started to get phone calls and text messages and stuff like that. And I started getting messages, and my ex told me, she was like, I'm coming down. I'm coming down there right now. And, honestly, I really didn't believe that she was coming. But she started to, take pictures of different landmarks and stuff like that was familiar to me to prove that she was actually headed their way. And me, I wasn't going to come home. I worked late that night, and I was going to go, over by the girl's house, that I was talking to. But, I got a phone call from my mom, and my mom, told me that, I need to come home. I need to, hear her out. I need to, talk to her, see what's going on. So I ended up, heading down, to the house, and lo and behold, she was there. And I walked into my mom's kitchen. I seen her sitting at the table. I'm talking about my ex now. She had tears in her eyes, and she was talking about how much she loved me and how much she cared about me and stuff like that. And, I remember I had so much hate in my heart for her, man. Like, I really I said so much bad stuff to her, man. Like, I mean, I just told her, man, I just told her that she was just like one of the worst people in the world, man. I mean, I'm just being honest. If I probably would have said something like that to somebody, that I probably didn't know the words that I said, we probably would be fighting like men or scrapping, but I did say that because I had a lot of anger in my heart and stuff like that. But finally, man, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, after all that, I broke down and cried. I remember I leaned against my mom's sink, and I just broke down and cried, man, because I was like, how could you do me like this, man? Like, how can you do me like this? Like, how can you hurt me so badly like this, man? I ain't never think you would do this. And I remember, like, she grabbed me, and, we hugged, we embraced and stuff like that. We both were crying, and I remember, like, so much pain that I had in my heart. I remember, like, my mom started to cry, because, like, I guess she must have just felt my hurt. I guess that's just a special connection that we had. Me and my mom always been close, man. I mean, man, my mom and I don't know if we just got some kind of same wavelength or something like that, the same energy, but, I mean, I guess she can feel my pain at that time. But, I mean, we were hugging and stuff like that, me and my ex, and we both had tears in our eyes, and we were like, she was telling me how sorry she was for leaving and stuff like that. And, at the end of the day, I forgave her. I really did. I tried to give it, the old college try. I really did. I forgave her. And it took some time, of course. I mean, But I just loved her so much, man. And unfortunately, I had to, break ties with the other girl. And, it wasn't good news to her. It was hurtful to her. And, I've said this over and over again, but I just want to let her know if she's listening to this video, I apologize for that. But, you didn't deserve that. Like I said, you're a wonderful person. You're a great person. You didn't deserve that. But, I had to have that tough conversation, and I decided to go back with my ex. And everything was cool, man. Of course she went back to Texas and I was, back at home. But we had the whole long distance relationship thing going. I was coming down there every other weekend. We'll get a hotel, and spend time together. And then she will come down, when she's off on the weekend. And everything, was hitting off, man. It was, it was a good look. I really started to feel her again, man. Some time, and we really would start, linking and syncing up and stuff like that. And, it was good. And I remember like a couple months passed, and I remember I was at work and I was in a stock room. I was a store manager, and I was in the stock room. I was thinking I wanted to I think I want to ask this girl to marry me. I think we ready to get married. And I remember, I was just thinking. I remember I asked my mom, and I told her I think that I'm ready to ask her to marry me. And mom said, well, if you love her, ain't nothing wrong with that. You should ask her. And I remember, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So I ended up going to a jewelry place. And, I picked out the ring and stuff like that. And, I knew what it was going to look like and all that kind of stuff. But first things first, I wanted to make sure that, I talked to her mom. And her family have a really, really big Thanksgiving festivity, out there in Louisiana. Shouts out to all my people in Louisiana. But they have a huge Thanksgiving every single year. And I remember I went down there and I asked her mom, I asked her mom permission to marry her. And, of course, her mom said, I know that you'll do right by my daughter, and I know you love her, and I know that, you'll do right. And she was like, that's okay with me. So I got the consent of her mom, and, so I was able to go to the ring shop and get a ring. Of course, her ring costs a good little bit of money. So I had to go to down payment and have to make installments, man. Hey, I'm just being honest with y'all. I have all this bread. So, I ended up going, getting her a ring. And, I gave it to her. I proposed to her, and I asked her to marry me. And I want y'all to keep that in mind, about the installments thing. So, of course, I had it all laid out. Okay, I'm going to let y'all know how, I proposed to it. So I got all of our pictures that we had, and I made a slideshow. And I made the song Anthony Hamilton's The Point of It All. And at the end, I just had To Be Continued on there. And I got down on my knee and I asked her to marry me. And of course, she said yes. And we both were happy and stuff like that. We were smiling and it was a good look, man. Like I said, man, one of the happiest times of my life. I really, man, just remember that moment, man, like how good I felt, man. And I was like, man, finally, after all this stuff we done been through, we finally gonna get it right, man. We finally got it right. So, everything was good. Everything was cool and stuff like that. But I felt that, she needed to, come down to Mississippi. We talked about it. And, she was like, well, I'll come down. And she did. And shouts out to her, man. Look, I'm not going to take nothing from her because that was a huge step. Like her coming from a big city like Texas and coming down to Mississippi and stuff like that. That is a huge, huge move. And she did do that, man. She came down there. She ain't have nothing but like a little chest. You know what I'm saying? Like with her clothes in there and stuff like that, man. She moved down there. And at that time, man, I ain't have no crib. You know what I'm saying? I was staying with my mom. Because, like I said, I just moved down there not too long ago, and I still didn't have no place yet. Honestly, man, because I was afraid to be alone during that time. It wasn't because I couldn't get no place. It just was the fact that I was just alone, and I didn't want to be by myself. And I mean, me and my mom went a couple places before and looked at apartments, but I was kind of iffy. You know what I'm saying? So mom was like, well, you don't have to get no place right now or nothing like that. So that was the reason I stayed with my mom or whatever. So me and her was, ended up, staying with my mom and stuff like that for a little while. And, she ended up getting a job. Like, like I said, shouts out to her because she left her job and everything like that and everything that she knew and moved down to be with me, so she was, got an apartment and stuff like that. And, we ended up moving in the apartment together, and she got the apartment because one, she actually got the job at an apartment complex. And she ended up getting, the apartment too. So me and her were living together. And this was a huge step because although I had apartments, me and her never lived together. We never, ever lived together. Like, she would always come over by my house and stay for days at a time, but she would always go home. So there was a huge step, man, living with somebody, being dependent on one another, to make things happen. And like I said, it was cool, man. We started off, it was straight. We didn't have any issues. We didn't have any problems or anything like that. But, I don't know, man. When you live with somebody and you've been together for X amount of years, you have a tendency of kind of taking each other for granted because you feel like you know everything about that person. Like, every single thing about them. And you tend to take that for granted, like I said, man. And me and her, like, at that time, like, we weren't cool, you know what I'm saying? Like, we weren't kicking it like that. I mean, I would go to work and she would go to work, and we would always call each other, on the road, and we would probably meet, at a grocery store to get groceries for, to cook food, or we would meet up, if somebody wanted to go to a clothing store. We would always meet up in the evening. That would kind of be our thing. But at the same time, man, like, we stopped talking to each other, like, during the day, texting each other. That was normally something we used to do, but we stopped doing that. And, but at the same time, we were rolling with the punches. I guess we felt like, man, we were just doing it. We were just in our zone. And, we didn't have any bad issues or anything like that. Like, we still went out to the movies and stuff like that. And we still went out to eat, and we still laugh with each other and stuff like that, and play fighting, do what couples do. But I feel like there was, when I think about it, I felt like it was a disconnect between, me and her when we moved in together. And I think it wasn't just her, it was me. I was more focused on, like, kind of doing my videos and doing, like, my podcast and stuff like that, and being on the phone. And I was real big on sports talk radio, and I would, like, call in on the sports talk to be the most intelligent guy on the phone. I was so focused and so dialed in on radio and so much passion, man. And at the same time, I just felt like sometimes we would get home, she would be on her phone, and watching television, and I would be, on the other side on my phone. Like, we haven't seen each other all day, and we still, ain't talking to each other or nothing like that, So I felt like that was, something that kind of caused it or whatever. But, man, we had, like, arguments and stuff like that where, we would argue, and I would leave, and I would, go stay by my mom for a couple of days, and then I would come back, and but I mean, for the most part, it was a relationship, for two people that was together for a long time. And, you know, we had problems and stuff like that, but there was something about it, you know, like when you with somebody for a long period of time, you know when something ain't right. You can't prove it, but you just know, like you just know a person, just absolutely know a person. So, you know, that's where I feel like it took a turn. So I want everybody to check out part 3. Part 3 is going to be the final installment of the breakup. I want to talk a little bit about how everything went down, why everything went down, and, you know, what I learned from this, and if I learned anything from it. So, check it out. I hope you all enjoyed part 2. Come back for part 3 if you want to hear the conclusion of the breakup. We glow.